your time. We look forward to the wonderful session on design thinking today. I will quickly take you through Quint's introduction. So Quint is a global IT best practices organization in operations from past 28 years, having its offices in 49 countries with over 350 plus consultants, over 150 partners, 100 plus employees till 2016, and it's growing in numbers on several projects. Quint as an organization started its operation globally since 1992. We all know that that's the year where IT also got incorporated. And Quint was one of the first amongst to start the ITIL best practices consulting and workshops across the globe. As time passed, Quint got itself into the higher levels. As technology and best practices started evolving, Quint adopted Lean IT. So Quint is one of the partners for LETA, spreading across the Lean IT education across the globe. Post that, Quint adopted Agile methodology, started offering various services under Agile methodology. Then it came into a DevOps, automating your processes, getting the dev and ops together to give the fastest, quickest go-to-market solutions. So Quint is also a DevOps DASA partner for the education certifications. Also, not to miss, Quint is one of the world's best outsourcing organization, and for continuously for 4 years, 2014, 15, 16, 17, Quint has been listed as world's best outsourcing organization. Every year, we train about 30,000 professionals globally in various best practices. And the way we move forward, we look forward to the digital transformation as a whole service to the world. Moving next, these are the 6 focused areas or challenges we do challenge ourselves, and these are the areas where we offer our services as well. The first one is the organizing IT, which talks more of the IT benchmarking, the gap analysis, ISO certification, 20K certification, and the entire gamut of ITIL processes. The next one is the blending technology, where we do the best practice, the process, and the technology blend, where we offer the joint co-create values to the customer. As we move forward, nowadays, innovation makes a lot of difference to the product packaging, product introduction, and overall business. So innovation is the area where we do lots of discovery, ideation, innovation workshops, collaborative work with the customer, and so on and so forth. Then we move on to the agile platform, where we offer a lot of agility with the current trend of business, where we transform the business from the non-performing units to the high-performing units, adopting different agile practices. Nevertheless, data nowadays is very, very crucial, and it's a backbone of a business. Understanding that, we started offering various services under data science, data analytics, big data, and so on and so forth. So data is very, very crucial, which is leading to some good innovations to the world. Last and not the least, digital transformation. So the entire gamut of digitalizing your services has been focused. So these are the key focused areas. I'll quickly take you to the next slide, which is the best practices. So Quint offers a variety of best practices. So we see the ITL transitioning from IT service management to the project management, Prince to the MSP. Along with that, the new age best practices, which is talking about the Lean IT, which is talking about the SDI service desk certification, the change management, ISO 20000, and so on and so forth. Also, the project management is very, very crucial for all the aspects of the businesses. So we can see the various project management services which have been offered by Quint. With the new technologies and advancement coming in the business, we've also adapted to the DevOps data, Agile, blockchain, and now we are a gold partner of Scale Agile. Quint also help various organizations in behavioral aspect. We have a separate division called Colors, which helps in leadership programs to most of the organizations. I'll come to the speaker. We are fortunate to have Dr. Madan Mohan Rao for today's session on the design thinking for innovation. Dr. Madan Mohan Rao is the research advisor. He is an author of various books. He also does a lot of consulting across the globe. He has authored almost 15 books and he has spoken in across 19 countries in various conferences on design, innovation, discovery, and those areas. Without wasting much of time, I would request Dr. Rao to take forward and start the webinar. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for taking out your time on a Monday. This is the middle of the afternoon on a Monday. It's the end of a quarter. You're all very busy, I'm sure. But thank you so much because I want to share with you some very important insights on a key discipline called design thinking. I'm going to focus today on design thinking for innovation. You can use design thinking for productivity, for risk management. We'll talk about some of that today, but the main focus today is on, especially given this post-pandemic era, how should companies innovate for success? How to innovate to connect with the customers? So very briefly about myself, I've published some books on knowledge management, digital media transformation, and so on. And the key focus in all of these books is it's not just about technology. It's not just about the business. It's about also the design of the product or the service or the experience which connects to the audiences. So in this session for the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you why do we need design thinking, how does design thinking work, and what does design thinking do for you. To begin with, we're going to have a whole bunch of questions also. I'm going to begin with the first poll now. There's going to be an interactive session. I would like each of you to tell me what is your current involvement with design thinking. I'm curious, I'm learning, I am applying. Where are you in this journey of yours?
Okay, so we have a first poll here. It's a quick poll to understand the audiences. So the poll says, what is your current involvement with design thinking? So you have three options and you have a minute to cast your vote. I would request all of you to please cast your vote. Okay, so we have a result here, and this is our first poll, and result is quite interesting. So 51% of the audiences have voted for I'm curious. 34% of the audiences have voted for I'm learning, and remaining 15% have voted for I'm applying. So Dr. Rao, over to you for the explanation.
Thank you so much again for telling us where you stand in this journey. I shall pitch my remarks accordingly based on the fact that a lot of you are curious and some of you learning and a few are applying. So the next part of my presentation, oops, I think I lost the slides. Can you give me sharing rights again? Yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, companies are looking at design as another key differentiator in addition to technology and business. Of course, today, every company has to be at the cutting edge of technology. You better know how to use digital, social, enterprise platforms. Some of you already are on journeys of AI, machine learning, Internet of Things, all that stuff. We are now living in a world where we also have very different business models. The sharing economy, like Uber, Ola, etc. The subscription economy, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on. A freemium model, half free, half paid for, and so on and so forth. None of these will work unless you have good connection with the customer. You need to have good empathy. You need to understand what's the customer journey, involve them in the co-creation of the product, and so on. All of these are elements of the whole journey of design thinking. Let's take a look at today's trends now. The first big trend is in knowledge cycles. Today, companies are expected to become very creative. So today, services and product companies don't just have to do what the customer says. You have to be a step ahead of the customer and think of a new world, a new practice to improve them. You need to think like a startup, like an entrepreneur. Whether you're a big company or a small company, you have to be agile and innovative in your thinking. In terms of business challenges, today we are living in a world where product cycles are very short. They're becoming shorter and shorter. We also have high risks, such as the coronavirus, obviously, which is changing the way businesses are changing their business models and so on. We have very different generations of people in the workforce. We have Generation Next, who grew up digital, as compared to people like maybe many of you and me, who had the internet only much later in our life. And last but not least, we have lots of emerging opportunities. Digital is opening up another whole world of innovation for us. There is offshoring, crowdsourcing, design thinking, and so on. And we also have to balance this with the trends of today, such as, for example, physical distancing. This is a part of everybody's life today, whether you're living in an apartment complex or in a house, whether you're working from home or going to a mall or going to the office, or if you're in security or healthcare. The design of physical spaces and virtual spaces has completely changed because of the COVID crisis. So, for example, let me give you a few quick examples of where design thinking is very relevant in the COVID pandemic era. For example, masks. I know so many people who are making masks of different kinds for different kinds of audiences. Many companies have pivoted from their existing operations to start making personal protection equipment, gears, suits, and so on. Many companies are looking at healthcare, how to use 3D printing to come up with new kinds of services. And finally, we have work from home, how to come up with the rules of engagement where you trust employees to work from home, even though they have many people sharing the same computer, the same workforce, when you have security as a key requirement in your supply chains, in your IP access rules, and so on. In all of these, design thinking plays a key role, whether it is product or service or process design. Let me give you some simple examples from where I live. You all know that this is a mango season going on right now, but many of us can't go to the big mango markets and mango melas. Guess what we did in my apartment complex? We have designed safe distancing with a mango truck so that the mango truck brings mangoes straight from the farms. We have designed safe distancing for all the residents to come and buy the mangoes. All the payment is contactless, only through mobile apps. This is a great example of co-creation and using design thinking for physical distancing and combining physical with digital. Here are some other examples of how
Dr. Ram,
COVID, yeah,
there are a lot of people who have some issue with the voice. So I have two requests. One is slightly slow on the speed, and second is
okay,
if you can switch off the video because I think their bandwidth is becoming an issue. So if the video could be
okay,
switched off. Thank you so
okay.
much.
Is my video off now?
Yeah, it's off. Yeah, I'll check with
Okay,
them
good.
if they are okay, but please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah. Apologies for that. And thanks to my colleagues for reminding me. This, as I mentioned, is one of the challenges of work from home. Not everybody is on the same wavelength in terms of bandwidth, in terms of speed, and so on. So far, I've been talking about examples of design thinking. And today we see a lot of demand for any product which can help people collaborate. E-commerce has taken off. If you are in online learning, for example, I've got friends who work for Byju's. They are doing amazing things now because everybody wants to learn online. If you are in digital gaming or entertainment, this is a great time because there's so much demand for these kinds of services. I've got a friend who teaches yoga. She's teaching yoga online now because people need to be physically and mentally fit to do their kind of work. So even though the COVID virus has created a lot of crisis for people, it's also an opportunity for innovation. So even though there is risk in this era, there's also opportunity. And that is what design thinking is all about. Think positive, understand your customers' fears and aspirations, and design products and services for them. The customer could be a consumer, the customer can be your own employees, the customer can be your business partners. Uh, can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, actually, your video has also come back again, Mr. Rao.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't have my. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Now here we go. So I'm talking today about design thinking for innovation. Remember, I said you can use design thinking for productivity, for risk management, and so on. So what do I mean by innovation? One kind of innovation, of course, is product. It can be hardware or software. Another one can be a product system or a platform of products, such as Microsoft Office, Mozilla Firefox. Innovation can also be about a service, such as 7-Eleven e-commerce. Innovation is also about a channel, for example, setting up your own stores or Amazon's Kindle, selling print books in digital format through the Kindle. It can also be a brand. Innovation can be the kind of brand you build, such as Intel Inside. It can also be an internal process. The first few examples I just showed you are the design of an external facing product or a service. You can also have design thinking internally for example, lean production in the case of Toyota. It can also be a business model. Gillette is a great example. You get sticks for free, but you pay for the blades. So it's half free, half paid for. It's a different kind of business model. Then, of course, you have the very famous sharing models of business innovation, such as networks. Wikipedia is one of the best examples. You crowdsource content creation to the audience, and they create this content for you. Okay, so these are the different areas of innovation. How can design thinking help you in your innovation? It will help you go down this maturity curve. A basic product is has some utility. A much better product is also usable. It's easy to use. An even better product is pleasurable. It gives delight to customers. Another stage after that is desirable. People want this product and the next product and your next product. And finally, it's virality. I know virus is a bad word to use these days, but virality means I like this product or service so much that I recommend other people also to use it. This is what design thinking can do for you. It can take you from a basic product to an empathetic product to a viral product which everybody wants to get. Now you must be wondering, how does design thinking work? How do you get all these kinds of ideas? Now we come to the central part of my presentation. This is my framework called the 8 I's of design thinking. These 8 I's are all the words begin with the letter I, and they are intent, insights, immersion, interaction, ideation, integration, iteration, and intensification. I will explain each of these in about a couple of minutes each with some examples and case studies, and that will then come to the end of our presentation. So, the aim of design thinking is get ideas from as many sources as you can so that you can build a good enough product to get going. So, it is not just about what you think, but what your colleagues, your employees, and your business partners also think. So let's have another poll question now. Can we have the poll now? Design thinking works best when the ideas come from internal people, customers, or consultants.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. I would request all the attendees to start polling. We will have a minute about to go. Okay, so we have the result, and the result is the ideas come from a group of internal experts. It's got a 75% of the overall audiences voted for this. Then the ideas come from customers only, 55%, and the ideas come from external consultants, 44%. So 75, 55, 44. Over to you, Dr. Rao. Dr. Rao, you are on the mute mode. You need to unmute.
From your customers and from external consultants. So your challenge as a design thinker is when you have so many ideas, how to find the right one to connect to the customer. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Dr.
Yeah, okay, because the screen keeps toggling for some reason. Okay, so for example, the decision to launch a new electronic reader, the decision to launch a new service, the decision to launch a new e-commerce platform, all of these are intent. And in design thinking, you can actually change your intent. A good example is Redbus. You must have heard of the e-commerce platform for booking tickets called Redbus. They first began by saying, I want to create software for bus operators. Then they changed because of design thinking and experimentation into we will become an e-ticketing platform for bus tickets. So even your intention can change. You should be prepared to change your vision and mission as you go along. That is a very important part of design thinking. The second step is insights. You need to do some research, even though there may not be any market research out there. There may be no Google answers for your search when you have a new product or a new service in mind. You have to do this research yourself. You have to look at the limits of existing research out there and do research yourself by doing expert interviews, sense making, talking to people, and so on. This, for example, is how the iTunes was created. When Apple first launched the iPhone, they had no idea that, wow, this App Store can become a big money spinner. But by looking at what people were doing on the App Store, they said, aha, here's where we can create new kinds of value by working along with customers and developers. Another trick question, is this design thinking? I wish I could see all your hands out there, but I cannot. But this is a great example of how design thinking takes product innovation to the next level. Notice how the bottle is actually upside down, because when this bottle was first released on the market, the label was facing the other way, but they found that people were unable to squeeze the ketchup properly. It would stick at the bottom of the bottle and not be easily squeezable. So to make people put the bottle upside down, they put the label also upside down. That's a great example of design thinking. You need to watch how customers actually use your product. The way people use your product and service is very different from the way you think they use the product and service. This is where you have to do your research and immerse in what your customers are doing. That is the third phase of immersion in design thinking, which is watch the user journey, watch how they use different kinds of products. Those of you who use mobile phones will know so often the menus keep changing, whether it's the old Nokia phone or the new iPhone, the menus keep changing. Why? The designers of these iPhones, the Android phones, etc., know that people's preferences for what item should come on top keeps changing. At the bottom in this picture, you can see these rentable, shareable bicycles. You have them all over the big Indian cities now. But look at the problems that are happening. People are leaving them on the roads, they're leaving them on the malls, they're leaving them in the middle of the road. You have to immerse and find out how to improve where people put these bikes. And one answer by the company Bounce has been, if you want to check out of your bike service, you must take a photo of the bike where it is and then upload it to close your account. That is a great example of immersion in the actual use of a product to make the service even better and better as you go along. Then you have interaction. Okay, this comes after observation. Observation is only one part of understanding the customer. The second is interaction. You need to talk to your customers. Those of you who've done anything in the education sector, those of you who are parents, those of you who buy toys for kids, know that the way kids use toys, the way children use maker space kits is so different from what people originally intended. You must interact with people to find out what they want. IBM has conducted a global innovation jam to find out what do people think about innovation in our company. Take a look at a company like Twitter. It's almost like 10 years old now, but they still keep changing with new features to find out who likes what kind of feature. Do we need voice tweets? Do we need a timeline kind of tweets? How long should the video be? So on and so forth. So in this kind of activity, this is one of the most important charts you will see in design thinking. It's called the customer journey map. Now, most people think customer journey means when people buy the product. It's much more. It is what happens before people buy the product. How do they do research about the product? What are their aspirations? What are the frustrations they face which make them want to buy your product or your service? When they actually interact with your service, how do they buy, how do they pay, how do they use it? And then there is the post purchase part, which is how do they share their reviews, how do they share their experiences with the product, and so on and so forth. So all along these there are activities, there are emotions, there are pain points, and there are opportunities. If you don't understand your customer journey very well, you will not be able to serve them very well. A great example, once again, in the COVID era is safe distancing and contactless service. You must have heard the buzzword contactless many times. That is a key element of design thinking today. How do you design products and services with minimal contact? For that, you must understand the customer journey in every activity. It can be work from home, it can be supply chain communication, it can be buying a ticket to go to a movie, it can be buying mangoes in the mango truck, the way I showed you early in the presentation. In all of these, you have to understand the customer journey, because it is only by being close to the customer do you understand what are their problems, what are their needs. This is a core focus of design thinking, to map the entire journey of your customer. Now, we come to another little quiz, a pop quiz over here, which is where does the customer journey finish? Over to you, Sami, to run the poll.
Yeah, thank you, Rao. So we request all the attendees to please cast their vote. The new poll is the customer journey finishes with, and you have 5 options, and we have a minute to go. While you're casting your vote, I would also like to put one point here, is that if you have any questions in the middle of this session or any queries, you can please put forth in those chat box. We will take questions at the end of the session. We have Q&A session where we're going to pick and choose certain questions. Looking at the time permitted, we will take as much as questions. So please put your questions in the chat box. We will take them in the Q&A. Okay, so we have a result now. So 65% of the audiences have voted for the usage of the product. 24% of the audiences have voted for none of the above. 6% to complete research on the product. 3% the purchase of the product, and 1% the installation of the product. This is the result of this poll. I would request Dr. Rao to please give insight.
Okay. Can you give me back access to the presentation? Great, thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this was actually another kind of a trick question again. The correct answer is none of the above, because after the customer uses the product, he or she will share their feedback. They will say this product sucks, or this is a great product, or I need some customer help, or I need this new feature. Can you add this new feature? Or can I get a discount because it's not working properly? They publish this on social media. They tell other people about it. And maybe if they like the product, they will buy the next product from you. So the customer journey, in a sense, is never finished. Look at all these smartphone companies. They want you to keep buying the next and the next and the next version of your products. So a key metric over here to use is lifetime acquisition cost and lifetime long-term value of the customer. How much does it cost you to get the customer, and how long will they stay with you? Because the customer journey never finishes. They are with you at all times. Now, we come back to the other eight C's framework. There are four more C's left. The next one is ideation. This is where you have to come up with different kinds of ideas. One of my first poll questions to you was, where do ideas come from? From inside, from your company, from your customers, from the outside world? They come from everywhere. You have to brainstorm in the beginning and come up with crazy ideas and even impossible ideas. That fork that you see in the image at the bottom, that's not a real fork at all. You cannot create an object like this because the middle part of the fork doesn't exist in the real world. So this is a great example of an impossible object. So you have to think crazy things, because from these crazy things will come that one really good thing. Good example again is the creation of the classic Post-it by 3M. It was an adhesive which was not working very well, but they found new uses for it. And this is one of the best selling products in the stationery category. Ideation. Ideas come from collision of creative forces among different people. The next stage after that is a bit trickier, integration. With all these ideas that you have, you must create a series of prototypes. These are beta versions, mock-ups. A great example again is the driverless car. Many companies are trying to create driverless cars, Google, Tesla, everyone. You have to keep integrating perspectives from electric energy, from mobile networks, from electricity grids. So you're never done. You have to keep integrating ideas because you're getting ideas from very different kinds of people. Many services and products you design will have to have an integration of different kinds of ideas. I'll give you another example from my own publications. I've done most of my books in the print form, but when I did my last two books on proverbs, I collect a lot of proverbs and quotes. One of the publishers told me that, these are very small little pieces of information. Each proverb or quote is only one line. Why can't you deliver this by SMS or a mobile app? And that was a fantastic suggestion. So we integrated mobile developers, digital designers, and print book publishers, and created three apps. If you Google my name on the App Store, you will see these apps available for free on Android. That came about because of integration of ideas from people in the print world and the digital world. When ideas collide and you integrate them, you get superb design thinking products. Now you come to the last two stages, which is, okay, I've got my product ready. Now you have to keep iterating, scaling up, improving the features, which features to add, which features are people willing to pay for, which features are negotiable, which are ones which are failures. How do I learn from failures? Again, great examples are how Ola and Uber these days are changing their offerings. Now, if you see any, not just Ola, Uber, auto rickshaw on the road today, there's a plastic fiberglass partition between the driver and the passenger. This is to iterate messages of public safety in products, services, and public goods. So iteration is how you keep learning and validating with different groups of users. You might have heard of what's called crossing the chasm. The first people who use your product may be very innovative people anyway. They will like your products. But when you go to the mass market, ouch, that's a big problem. You have to make your design that much better to connect to the mass market. And last but not least is intensification. You scale this up. You use all kinds of marketing techniques, storytelling. I represent a company called Your Story. We tell stories of startups, stories of innovation so that people connect with the story. It's one thing to come up with a product feature. It's another one to come up with a story of success, customer testimonials. Again, look at all the smartphones, how they're coming up with new and new products. And this takes time. The Toyota Prius, the hybrid electric and petrol car engine, took 10 years to put into the market. That's how much time it takes. Look at the evolution of transportation. All of these take a lot of time. Okay, so these are the 8 C's framework for design thinking. And let me ask you now another poll question. I've so far talked about the customer. Tell me whether you think design thinking means the customer is always right. Over to you, Samir.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. So we have a minute to cast the vote. I would request all the participants, attendees to please participate in this vote. One more suggestion, one more input. If you have any questions related to this webinar, if you have any points, if you have anything to share, please do put it in the chat box. Any questions, we will take those questions in the Q&A round. Yeah, looking forward to your participation in this quick poll. Okay, so we have a result for this poll, and the result is 75% of the people say false, and 25% of the attendees say true. So over to you, Dr. Rao.
Thank you so much. Let me go back to my presentation now. Can you give me the screen back? I'm seeing my old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the answer, as you guessed, is false. And it's a tough, again, almost like a trick question, because sometimes the customer is right. They are telling you things that you did not know about your product, but they are not always right. Sometimes they may not have been educated about the product properly, in which case it is your fault. You should have educated them properly. But the main aim of an innovator, remember, this is a talk about design thinking for innovation. Innovation means you're a step ahead of the customer and you want to educate them about something new, something better, something improved. So it's not always that the customer is right. You have to be a step ahead of them, but you cannot ignore the customer either. You have to find that balance very well, which is A, give the customer whatever they want, B, give them something new which they don't know yet that they want. Okay, so design thinking is how do you find that nice balance between being ahead of the customer but not losing the customer. Now, let me share all this again in the example of a case study. I was a consultant for knowledge management at a company called Pero Systems, which was bought by Dell. I bring up this example because I was with them for almost 3 years. It began when the VP of quality said, aha, I think we need knowledge management because we have a lot of knowledge lost in the company and we can improve productivity. And I'm hearing a lot of buzz about knowledge management. So we did first a lot of research, books, consultants, vendors, all gave us a lot of inputs. Then we got into immersion. Remember, you can't just copy example from another company and put it into your company. You have to go through immersion, understand what do your people think about this product or service. In this case, for example, knowledge management. You have to conduct interviews, roundtables, focus groups, online interviews, anonymous interviews to find out how do people feel about sharing knowledge with each other. Then you must come up with ideas. How should I call this portal? What should I call the name of the tool? What should I call the name of this competition? So you have to go through a lot of discussion and ideation and conversation with your employees. Then you must integrate all these into different pieces. So knowledge management is a very complicated mix of product and service. You need a product like a portal, but you also need services like facilitation and so on and so forth. After this came iteration, how to make sure that people understand what you want to do again and again. This is where a concept called gamification becomes very important. How to design game elements to bring process change. How to incentivize people to adopt your kinds of products and services you have in mind. And ultimately, you must collect best practices and intensify this. Newsletters, case studies, books about knowledge management in this case. Now, all this sounds fine. Let me show you some visuals about how this actually happened. We thought, for example, that once we announce a competition where people will share with us examples of how they're using the product, we found that we had only 20 or 25 cases that we reached. So to make people push and get even more, we use again a gamification model of sports. We told people, we want 100 case studies, guys, but we have got only 75 so far. Please pump up and give us the next 25 case studies. Okay, so this is design using gamification to increase employee engagement. At the very end, we use another gamification element, which is the prize. people want to be seen as the winner. They want to be seen as, I've understood how to use a product. I've understood how to use a service. Now give me some credit. So again, this is design thinking applied to how to acknowledge community support. So we put photos of the winners in posters, in the intranet, on the canteen walls, etc. And one good effect we found was when people went back home to their homes in the bus, or when they took part in online discussion forums or the portal, people would say, "Hey, are you the guy who won this competition? Congratulations. Can you share some ideas with me?" So this again is how to win buy-in, how to design engagement, how to design communication so that people buy into your innovation. One half of innovation is designing the product or the service. The second part of innovation is taking it to the market, internal market, external market, and getting buy-in. Okay, so many innovators, unfortunately, stop at the first part. They create the product, but they don't market it. In design thinking, you come up with not just the customer journey of buying the product, but of using and experiencing the product. So coming towards the end of my presentation, what I've covered for you is the 8 I's of design thinking, from ideation to iteration to intensification. I've introduced some of these tools over here. There are some more which we can talk afterwards. For example, we talked about brainstorming, we talked about the customer journey map, we talked about gamification. There are many other tools you can use. I talked about storytelling also. These are all the tools that you should be familiar with if you want to become a design thinker. Notice this is not the same as designer. I'm not teaching you how to become a designer. Design thinking is part of the tool set, a part of the mindset of a designer. It helps you talk to design people in your team. If you're a techie or if you're a business person, design thinking will teach you the language, the vocabulary to have a shared understanding of how design, business, and technology come together. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I gave you some examples of how the COVID crisis has accelerated the need for business focus in a number of areas. Over to you now again, Samir.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. We have one more poll, quick poll. Would request all the attendees to please cast their vote. We will have about a minute to run the poll. Okay, so we have a result in front of us. 53% of the audiences have voted for innovation, 20% for risk management, 18% for resilience, and 9% for productivity. Over to you, Dr. Rao.
Thank you so much, everyone. Once again, thank you for getting the gist of this presentation so far. Certainly, risk management is important, and that was a big part of the first focus in the lockdown period. It was all about risk management, how to manage your money flow, how to keep your employees safe, and so on. Then it came to resilience. How do we renew our business? How do we keep the cash flow going? How do we improve productivity of the employees? But now in this new normal, the main focus is innovation. How do I come up with new offerings and new services internally and externally in such a way that the innovator, the design thinking team, is ahead of the customer, but also connected to the customer and pulling them along the journey? So innovation is always about how to get that balance right. Stay ahead, but pull along your customer. And design thinking gives you those tools, how to integrate ideas, how to build empathy, how to understand the journey, how to map and iterate in each of these steps. So in conclusion, I want to leave you all with 5 questions to ask yourself. You all come from very different companies. So the first question you have to ask yourself is, How has our business landscape changed? Everyone knows it has, but how? What new opportunities, what new challenges? Can we go global? Can we stay local, etc.? Secondly, what new problems have emerged and what new behaviors have emerged in customers? I mentioned contactless and safe distancing as some of the two key behaviors. This is going to be across every industry for many months, many quarters, maybe even many years to come. The third is ideas. Things are moving very fast because we've all gone to online media for working from home. The whole world is global now. Ideas are coming from everywhere. How do you get these ideas to serve internal and external customers? Thirdly, are you good at learning from mistakes and failures? This is a big part of the innovation journey. Many companies unfortunately suffer from a failure trap. They are too scared to fail again. Many companies suffer from a success trap. They think they know everything, they know all the answers, but they don't. And last but not least, after all this theoretical exercise, how do you make it work? What tools do you use? I shared with you some tools, brainstorming, the customer journey map. How do you use these tools to innovate, map, and understand trends? With that, we come to the end of our workshop on our webinar on design thinking. But of course, we do have workshops and many such offerings for you. And I'll hand over now to my colleague Samir to explain some of these issues. Thank you all very much. Do stay tuned for more updates from my colleague Samir.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. It was absolutely wonderful to having shared all the nitty-gritties and the start. How do we start with design thinking? What are the parameters of design thinking? How do we plan design thinking? What are the key elements of design thinking? And how do we do carry out the entire journey of design thinking? That those were quite wonderful. Now I would take you through a couple of few more slides which we have now, and I will quickly sum up, and then probably we will have a couple of things for you guys, those who have attended this today's session, and we have certain offer for the people on the workshops, upcoming workshops. So here we go. So what kind of services we offer in design thinking area? So the foremost service is educating masses, educating the audiences, educating everybody, so that they start thinking, design element, they start thinking in that direction. So we have lots of workshops which are customized workshops, which are standard workshop. We have standalone workshops. Nowadays, in the new normal, we also have an online workshop where we form groups. So we have customized workshops where we start the journey of involving a lot of teams, involving everybody, thinking, putting their processes together, and then definitely coming out with the solution. The another thing is that we have a design thinking factory. So what does it mean? It means we collaborate lots and lots of projects. We have your thought with us. We discuss with you, we debate with you, and we come out with a solution. So we do an entire roadmap scalability plan for you. We understand your pain area, we understand your designing elements, we understand your customer requirements, we discuss with you, and together we work on the design thinking innovation factory. We do lots of ideation and innovation in this factory. And believe me, this is one of the interesting assignments we have done for a few customers in India and outside India. This works very well. This talks about a gap analysis, this talks about your assessment, this talks about your journey, how to start, what kind of a team compositions we need, how do we plan, how do we execute, what is the timeline we plan, what budget we do align, and so on and so forth. So this is a very interesting innovation factory. Last but not the least, we have entire area of consulting where we do lots of consulting and scalability activities in design thinking, business alignment, and implementation. We start from the awareness, we scale it up, we take it to the next level, then we start designing, we take it to the next level, we elevate you, you start thinking internally, you come up with your own plans, and then we do gap analysis, then we do implementation, and we all together do continuous improvement. So this is a journey where we discuss and we come out with the consulting assignments. Moving forward, we have a very interesting offer for all of you. So before that, we come out with the next poll. We would like to understand from you, those who have attended to that session, that would you be interested in design thinking workshop? So we have a minute to go for this poll. I would request all the attendees to please cast their vote. So we have two options and time start now. Okay, can we please close the poll so that I move forward? Yeah, thank you. We have one more poll, which is, the next level of the initial stage where you do your initial planning, your scaling, your resource planning, and so on and so forth. So are you looking for any implementation in forthcoming period for design thinking, system thinking, innovation, ideation? So we have a minute to go. Would request all the attendees to please cast their vote so that we come back to you with the solutions and relevant information. Okay, can you please close the poll? Thank you. The next one is that, as I mentioned earlier, that we have planned online workshop in this current pandemic. We would love to arrange classroom physical one-to-one workshop because such kind of workshops really work in the in-person contact model. Looking at current pandemic situation, most of our workshops, the customized workshops currently are being planned online. So we have upcoming workshop in the month of July, which is the design thinking workshop, which is the crux, which is the basic. If anybody wanting to start, anybody in the middle of design thinking, this workshop will give insight. It's a 2-day workshop, and we have an offer for all the attendees. They get 15% concession on this. So this ends our today's design thinking webinar. I thank all the participants for taking out their time in this current lockdown pandemic situation from your different various countries, managing to attend this workshop, managing to attend this webinar in your different time zones. Once again, I would like to thank Dr. Rao for giving us such a wonderful insight on design thinking, which is much required in nowadays because entire the journey and the paradigm shift is moving from waterfall to agile to DevOps to lean to now digital transformation. So this is much required from the innovation ideation point of view. Customer needs, customer changes, customer thinking, customer user experience, they're changing by the time you change, new technologies coming in place. So as we need design thinking. So I once again thank everybody for participation, and I thank Dr. Rao for giving us a wonderful session on design thinking. That ends our today's session, and we will come back to you with more details post this session. We have a follow-up activities. We will certainly come back to you with more details and offers and upcoming webinars. Thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe.